Thanks, listeners, for joining us for today's edition of Elko Live, our weekday radio show. And today's guests are from Great Basin College, where, of course, we are excited to feature the many programs and services and opportunities that are offered to students from throughout the region. Today, this is a program, a service that's in high demand, providing training for a great career serving the industry in truck driving. So today's guest, we're very pleased to feature Jeffrey Hills, who's the CDL instructor from Great Basin College. We also have a couple of students today. Katie McNeill and Rafael Aquino are both guests today. Did I pronounce your last name right, Rafael?
Yes,
okay, very good. Thank you. So we'll get started, obviously, in talking with you, Jeffrey. First of all, we should start from the basics and tell us what CDL means, what kind of training these students are in for.
Well, CDL is just short for commercial driver's license. Ultimately, what we're doing is just trying to create a basic entry-level driver with the confidence to operate the commercial motor vehicle. Put up with a lot of hazards, a lot of risks out there. So, really, what our goal is to just hit on the fundamentals of operation, and then ultimately get them linked up with local companies that would continue in that education and career paths.
And this is a very high in-demand position right now, right, Jeffrey?
Absolutely.
Okay. We should probably mention, too, the scope of, because we're going to get into some discussion about safety, because we really do need help from the community. This is an important part of today's program. We need help from the regular driving public. But let's talk about the scope of the equipment that these students are learning to operate, if you wouldn't mind telling us, because we've got semis, big rigs, triples. I mean, there are all kinds of ways to define commercial vehicles, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, well, currently at GBC, we've been able to be blessed with a brand new T680 Kenworth. We're running a 53-foot box trailer, which is a pretty long trailer. In a small town like this. So really that's the extent of our training and size of the units. But once they do get out into the industry, there's a lot of doubles, triples, combinations, tanker vehicles, just, a whole assortment of different types of units that they could be operating.
So this CDL training is really a gateway into this kind of opportunity, would you say, Jeffrey?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, just to give them a fundamental aspect of how to operate the units correctly, shifting correctly, watching blind spots, understanding what they're really just in general overview of what they're doing behind the wheel to operate safely.
So we're going to talk about that. What we should let listeners know is that the enrollment is open for this opportunity, talking with Jeffrey, and obviously Jeffrey Hills will be the instructor. So if someone's interested in commercial driving as a living or as a career, what's the best thing to do? To contact GBC?
Yes, our continuing education department. I'd speak with Dory or Angie over there. Super awesome ladies. They do a really good job, good support, cool to work with. So they'll take names, numbers. We run, some simple information, kind of meet a set of criteria that's a little more standard with the industry practices as far as definitely got to have clean driving records and be able to pass drug tests, drug screen, things like that. So I think that's a good start into the program.
And this is an investment, right? An investment in yourself. But from what I understand, the return is great on this type of training.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would say from previous year, we did have 100% success pass rate last year, which was really cool. So far, every student come through is currently employed here locally. I keep in touch with them frequently, and everyone seems to be happy and doing really well. So that's good news. So.
Yeah, that is really good news. That's a sign of a good training program, sending someone out who's qualified and understands the expectations of the job, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So does someone need any kind of special equipment or, for example, or is there help maybe with their tuition cost?
They do have a consortium funding the program or a portion of it. So that would again go through Dory and Angie, and they would determine if you meet the scholarship requirements, and and
Oh, good.
helps out pretty good. So.
They can answer those questions. We know in the past that job opportunities in Nevada, known as Join, they've been able to help people. So if you're thinking you don't really have the resources to take a class from GBC such as this, it's worth a call, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, to
Yeah,
find out.
Definitely
Okay.
give them a call.
Okay. So we're going to talk now with the students of the CDL class, at least two of the students. And Jeffrey, if you wouldn't mind maybe talking a little bit about your students before
Sure.
before we get to know Katie and Rafael, because they have terrific personalities, and I think it's going to be really encouraging for people listening to get to meet them today. So,
That's me.
yeah.
So Katie and Rafael were able to make it out today. They're currently in week 5 of a week 6 training program, so they're right on the cusp of being able to test next week, and it's pretty cool to see the evolution in the training. I try to keep kind of a fun atmosphere, just given the stress of the course and trying to learn. There's just a lot of things, it's a lot to take in when you first start learning. Ultimately, to watch the confidence grow behind the skills and the practice, the driving, the training that we're doing. At this point, I'd say they're rock stars. They're ready to test. So it's pretty cool to see them come to the course, not know how to operate a vehicle, and when they leave, they're ready to go to work. So.
That's wonderful. And Katie McNeill is obviously nodding. And Katie, you're really enthusiastic about this program. First of all, did you ever see yourself as a commercial truck driver?
No.
So let's talk about your journey. Yeah.
Well, I grew up near Carson City, Nevada, and I moved up here with my now husband. He got out of the Army, and then he went to GBC to do the welding program and the millwright and everything, and he actually got his CDL through the GBC as well, so he's had it for about 5 years now. And then I worked at the mines for about 6 years, and then ended up leaving and didn't know what I wanted to do next. And my husband's like, get your CDL. He's like, well, so I'm like, oh, okay. So I called the GBC and talked to Dory, and just kind of got me into it. So
Nice. So you have the benefit of knowing what it's like to be in a family, of which someone might be gone for a few days at a time, right, Katie? Let's talk about the reality of that. I don't know if you're raising a family, or if we hear of a lot of actually partners, husband and wives, who do long haul trucking together. Yeah.
yeah, we got 2 little girls, 4 and 2. And so working at the mines, having the crazy schedule and this and that, like, I saw them a lot, but I also missed out a lot. And we go about 5 days without even seeing each other. And so getting a local trucking job, I mean, it'd be home every weekend. And so it'd be more of like a set schedule, so I can actually have more family time and stuff like that. So that's like a huge benefit from it.
Oh, Katie, that sounds wonderful. I'm sure there are a lot of parents involved in, not just the mining industry. We have a lot of support industries and people who are just looking for quality of life.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah.
So when we come back to you, Katie, we'll talk more about how this 5-week, going on 6 weeks course has been for you, some of your experiences. We're going to talk about those drivers out there who we need their support to help you guys succeed. But first of all, I want to talk to Rafael about his experience. And Rafael, thank you so much for coming on the program. And if you wouldn't mind sharing with us some of your background, what made you decide this was the program for you?
So I went to the electrical program at the Great Basin College, and I saw the CDL program in there. And I talked with Angie, and I decided going to the CDL program.
So how was your experience? How's it been so far at GBC? Did you complete your electrical program, or did you make a switch?
Yeah, I finished it. I completed the electrical program, and then now I'm in the CDL program.
So you're a double threat. You've got skills. You got skills from Great Basin College, Rafael. That's exciting. So, do you have any goals in particular? Anything like Katie talked about wanting more family time? What are your goals?
My goals maybe driving for some trucking company here in town in the future.
So, and that's true. We can also talk to Jeffrey about that. Not only are there just these long distance people think of truck drivers as long haul, but plenty of jobs, right, that you could get locally, and of which they're in desperate need. Not just, again, the mining industry, but a lot of supply industries. That's one thing. We live in an isolated community. We drive long distances, right, Rafael and Katie? Yeah. So while we've got you on the microphone, and then we'll go back to Katie. So Rafael, tell us about what that was like the first time that you climbed up in the cab. I mean, or do you have any experience or family members?
No, and I didn't have any experience like 4 weeks ago. I didn't even know how to turn it on the semi truck. So now I'm learning all these 4 weeks.
Right. So what's it been like in the last 4 weeks?
I learned new things about the semi trucks, like parallel parking, conventional, offsets, right and left, and alley duck. I never hear about alley ducks. Now I know what it is. And yeah, I learned those kinds of stuff. Pre-trip inspection.
I'm still trying to wrap my head around the idea of parallel parking a truck like that. Yeah. The length and the dimension of that truck, that's incredible. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Our truck is 84 feet long.
Sorry about that, Jeffrey. Say that again.
Sorry. We're total unit size is 84 feet long. So.
Wow. So obviously you're learning how to use your
big.
mirrors. Yes, yes. Well, and is there technology, I guess, Jeffrey? I mean, is there, our cars now, we have backup cameras and things like that. I mean, we see, cars that kind of parallel park themselves. Is there any kind of technology involved? Or?
Not that we're currently using, but...
Yeah.
Just our eyeballs.
Yeah.
Just your eyeballs.
It kind of becomes a carnal feel after a while. Where you just understand the equipment, and your perspective is growing as they do more and more drive time.
Your spidey sense. Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay. Well, our guests today are from Great Basin College, the CDL program, and they are in the home stretch now. So, Katie, we talked to Rafael about what his experience has been like this last, 4 to 5 weeks. Tell us, what you've been going through. We should talk about the time commitment involved, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It was pretty intimidating at first. I've never been in something so big, but it was fun. And once we got out and drive, at that moment I was pretty much doubting myself, because I'm like, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to do this, because the shifting and downshifting. I mean, I've never driven a manual transmission before, but these are like completely different anyway. So even if you have experience driving a stick, these are like totally different. So, but downshifting I was having a lot of trouble with, and I think I was just thinking too much and not having that confidence. And then finally I got it, and now I'm like way more comfortable. My confidence level's up, and just having a good instructor too. And it's just, I don't know, just having that support from our teammates and stuff like that. Like it just all comes together, and having that support and everything. So I think that was really helped me too. And then my husband had told me about his experiences, and I got stuck on a hill, and then he told me he got stuck on even a worse hill and going to the mine. So he's like, that little hill that you got stuck on, he's like, don't worry about it, but just learn from it. And I definitely did. So, it's just exciting. Like, you just feel like you accomplished something. Like, it's awesome. Like, it's very rewarding. So.
It's a real physical and mental challenge, right? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, Rafael, in hearing Katie describe her experience, do you relate to what she's saying?
Yes. It's very stressful at the first time. I remember one experience between Red Lion and Idaho Street. Well, the truck shut off.
It did? Oh, gosh. Okay.
I think we've all stalled a truck there.
And that was the first time, and I couldn't do anything. So my instructor helped me at that point, and to turn it on again and keep going.
Wow. So you're the co-pilot on this, Jeffrey, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So in hearing
Poor
them,
guy.
yeah, and hearing these two talk, obviously they have a lot of confidence in you, just as you have in them. So there's a lot of pride. Confidence is a big word in CDL, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of my key word as the course progresses. As I'm grading them out day to day, confident is generally the word that I write on their paperwork. So
Yeah.
as they gain that, that's kind of my determining factor that they've reached where they need to be. So
Yeah, just don't let your mind think so much about the truck that, is behind you. I guess think about where you're going, right? And the direction the truck will follow. And, that's pretty intuitive. You're right. So you're helping people do amazing things. I mean, you're giving, Rafael confidence and pursuing a career and with some great training, you can make money. And Katie, you're giving her quality of life. Jeffrey, those are big things, absolutely, because you don't get that time back with little ones.
No,
Yeah.
they grow fast, so.
Yes. So hopefully we're reaching moms and dads who, might benefit too from this kind of training and experience. So let's talk about the requirements of the course, Jeffrey, so that people have a good idea what they would be investing in if they signed up.
really, my program, it runs a basic entry-level driver. So FMCSA has come out with some new regulations surrounding that, which we've been diligent, enrolled. We've got all that covered for the college. Really just meet those requirements. We are running an average about 3 days of classroom theory, which just introduces the students to defensive driving, distracted driving, hours of service regulations, just the full spectrum of DOT. And from that third day, really, my perspective is we need to get them on the truck as soon as possible and get to work. So really cover the fundamentals in theory in the classroom, giving them kind of a good overview of what they're going to be seeing in the future. And then the rest of the time spent on the truck, we start into our pre-trip, really day one of the course in the afternoons. We get out, familiarize with the unit. They're completing the standards in about 30 minutes. They need to complete about 160-point inspection and really give a description of what they're looking at, why they're looking at it, what they're checking for. So they're all right there, ready for that test. And all in all, they practice a lot of skills. They're probably pretty frustrated out there. Some days they're really good at it, and they can't do this one, and it just flips from day to day. So as the course goes on, that just kind of matches up right there about where we're at, their confidence, their perspectives. There's 6 skills they have to perform. So one's a straight line back, 100 foot. They've got to perform 2 offsets, one to the left, one to the right. Be able to parallel park the truck from a blind side and a sight side. They only are given an additional 15 feet longer than the truck to accomplish that. And then an alley dock. So.
Wow. So the alley dock is backing down an alley and then meeting up with the dock? Is that kind of okay? Yeah. Wow. And it could be just as different as the architecture, the city you're in. I mean, there's just so many variables. Yeah. So, talking with our guest today from the CDL program from Great Basin College, Jeffrey Hills is the CDL instructor. Katie McNeill and Rafael Aquino are CDL students about to become qualified professional drivers and soon to be on their way to employment and, of course, much better quality of life. So, Jeffrey, when you talked about the 6 weeks, would you say, are you spending like an average per day time investment, or what's the overall classroom investment that you're making and drive time?
In total, it's about 208 hours for the 6-week program. Given that we are one instructor, generally 4 students, that time kind of gets cut into quarters. But all in all, a big part of the training is the students even be able to stand outside of the truck and watch the movements of the truck. So they're still gaining knowledge from that perspective. But I try to keep it as even as possible and
absolutely
try to keep that time frame balanced as best we can. And they all seem to take to that pretty well. So.
Oh, yeah. It's just about the commitment that someone listening knows that they'd be making in the class, right? So.
Yeah, we run an 8 to 5 hour lunch break. Sometimes we get off early and, for feeling pretty confident or, comfortable for the day. So.
Yeah. And that brings us to a good point where we really want to educate the community. We live along I-80. That is a major transportation route. And we're used to encountering trucks going to and from on the interstate, but we need to be cognizant and aware of trucks on Idaho Street or on any of our city streets or cross streets. You don't normally encounter a large truck on a residential street, but you might, right, Jeffrey?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So we're going to let Jeffrey talk about some of the basics of what he really wants to impress upon local drivers, how they can help these students to accomplish these classes and to be successful and safe. And then Katie and Rafael, we can talk to you about maybe some experiences that you've had that, that you wish you could tell people about so that they could be aware and help you. So, Jeffrey, what are some of the things that are most important to not just student drivers, obviously, but for drivers of a commercial truck?
Well, I think from my perspective, I've been training defensive driving for a long time, a little under 20 years now, and I guess one common thing is, as far as that, is like signaling intentions. That's a huge thing out there. You don't maybe see it or think about it so much from a smaller car perspective. You get behind the wheel of one of these trucks and you see a lot more. You pay a lot more closer attention to what's going on. Not a lot of people in Elko use their blinkers. I hate to say it, but that could help improve, not just truck drivers, but just the general public. Communicating our intentions to other drivers around us is really a huge part of driving in general. You really just defensive driving behind the wheel of these trucks. I mean, you've got such a greater look ahead capacity that these students are having to focus on and continually make decisions as things change. Where's my escape routes? Do I have to slow down? We slow down sooner. We speed up slower. So it's a lot bigger risk. We've seen quite a bit of craziness out there. But yeah, I think from a defensive driving perspective, just really slow down, follow the laws, if nothing more. Stop at stoplights, stop at stop signs, use your signals. Basic driving etiquette, I think, would be just a huge plus. So,
I think, too, from my own experience, I might see a truck, whether it's oncoming or I'm alongside, and they're going to make a turn at an intersection. And that's always a little nerve-wracking, right, for everybody. From your perspective, what should the driver of just a regular vehicle be doing to help that truck driver?
Well, I think one of the common things that we're seeing here locally is cars not stopping, say at a stop sign or the stop line. At intersections, they're pulling well past that. A good example is coming down Lamoille Highway over the 5th Street Bridge, making a left onto Silver Street there at that light. If a car's anywhere maybe 2 to 3 feet past that white line, it's very difficult for us to maneuver the unit around there safely. So as part of our defensive driving, being able to recognize that. So if they're too far past that line, we ultimately have to stop and not proceed, even though we have the right of way. To be safe, we definitely don't want any injury or harm, to the community or to our students or ourselves. So those are some little things I think that are really difficult for the students to pick up at first because they're still trying to associate how big that unit really is as they make these turns. So.
Absolutely, and they're trying to abide by the laws that they just learned in the classroom. And then that has the effect of, another driver will see somebody do that. Like, I think of pulling into the intersection and waiting to make your left-hand turn and blocking the intersection. Well, for a long time, Elko people were just doing that regularly, and that's actually not lawful to do that, right, Jeffrey? Yeah, and Katie's nodding, and Rafael's like, that creates a problem. It's kind of the monkey see, monkey do, right? So, and then obviously give truck drivers room, right, Jeffrey?
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
There's a saying. One of the things that it does bring a lot of stress. Even myself with some experience, I still tend to get a little stressed behind the wheel in a city environment. Just your awareness is a lot higher. So, a common statement is if you pull up behind a CMV like ours and you can't see our mirrors, we can't see you. We don't know you're back there.
Right.
That's a real common thing. People tend to get really close behind the units. And especially as the students are learning how the clutch works on hills and learning how to start smooth. And that's not only a hazard to us, but it's more of a hazard to the driver that's getting too close to us because we don't know you're there, and that's a big unit. You're in a small car. There's not a lot we can do other than just to continue training that clutch work and things like that.
Oh, so these are all really important points. And from Jeffrey Hills, who's the CDL instructor, commercial motor vehicle students, of course, Katie McNeill and Rafael Aquino. And Katie, did you want to talk about maybe some of your most harrowing experiences? And maybe there was even a time where someone did go the extra mile, literally, and gave you a break, right?
Yeah. Yeah, most of like what Jeff's covered already. Just in my experience driving, I mean, if you see a semi coming, you can wait 2 more seconds until we pass, and then you can turn on. Because I've had many people go at the last second, cut me off. So, I mean, we're not driving something so small. So, it doesn't move fast. You can't stop fast. So, even taking turns, like in awkward angles, I mean, just be on the lookout. I mean, just be respectful to the driver, make eye contact. If you are too far up ahead, just no one's behind you, just go ahead and back up, give us some room. Or yield to us or any truck drivers. So, but yeah, I've had a lot of experiences with people cutting me off. and it is stressful because, I mean, we have to have like 20 eyeballs to see everything around us, but when I got stuck on a hill, I came to a dead stop. So, I mean, we're starting to roll. People behind me are creeping up. So it's like you see a truck rolling back, don't creep up. So it's like kind of give us some room and, be patient. So.
Boy, I can feel, my anxiety just thinking about it. It's like, would I rather be co-piloting a small airplane or would I rather be in a big truck like that? I mean, that's scary. But everything that you're doing, Katie, is, you're learning these skills and the community appreciates it. We need truck drivers to literally, that's what keeps commerce going. Mm-hmm. You're doing this important job for us, and you're so conscientious. You're doing it safely.
Yeah.
So keeping everybody safe. So Rafael, what about your experience as far as what you've been able to encounter now in your 5th week?
My experience is between Idaho Street and Mountain City Highway in that corner. It's a little bit hard, especially when the left turn driver are too far ahead, and you're gonna turn right. Mm-hmm. So I still have problems with that. So like yesterday and day before.
I think I've seen you at that. I mean, because I've thought about that, and that's an important thing too, right, Jeffrey? Is that this is a truck that's marked student driver, right? So you would hope that people would also give you that wide berth. But even the most experienced drivers need this kind of safety and courtesy. So what you're talking about is when you have to merge onto Mountain City Highway. Is that the?
Yeah.
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 So.
Yeah, I think he's explaining the opposite direction. So we come down by the Gateway RV, coming east on Idaho, and making a left onto Mountain City Highway.
Okay. Yes.
That oncoming traffic coming west doesn't have a yield at that stoplight. So even though we get a green turn arrow, that lane could be completely full, and we actually need that lane to make that turn without running over a car in the turn lane making a left. So, so we need that extra lane. So that really just becomes, the best we can do in that scenario is just time the traffic, kind of get out there and try to make eye contact.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's hit and miss. Some people will just kind of look at you like it's my lane, I'm going, and some people will have the respect and stop, so we're thankful for that. But
Wow, and it's all the difference between not just getting the cargo there safely, but obviously the driver, and making a safe environment for everybody, who's in this process right now too. So I know we've literally covered a lot of territory today in talking about the demand for licensed commercial drivers, those who can operate a commercial motor vehicle. And Jeffrey, is there anything that we haven't really covered that you wanted to make sure we got to today?
I think we've done well, for sure. I think just a little bit of education for the community, and these guys are under a lot of stress for 5 weeks, and I just say we're making drivers, and if you see us coming, we're trying to teach the class to wave, and
you see us wave,
with all your fingers. Yes,
change the face of truck driving a little bit, and
nice.
Let's respect each other's space and time on the road, and we're just want to be out there sharing the road with everyone safely. So.
Right. Remember, it could be Katie McNeill, and she's got 2 little girls who are dependent on her and her husband to get home safely, so that's important. I will always think of that now too, Katie. I appreciate it. And Rafael, obviously, you have important goals and things that you want to achieve, and so are you ready for the test? Do you know what you have to do next week? Tell us about that.
Yeah, I think I'm ready. I'm ready for next week.
Okay.
Yeah.
You've got to, I made a list of things. You've got to parallel park. You have to back up. You have to do some alley business there, something called offsets, right? You're all ready. Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, thank you both for being on the program today. I really appreciate your time. Absolutely. And Jeffrey, thank you for bringing us some amazing students. And we just want to encourage anyone who's interested in this to sign up through continuing ed at Great Basin College.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, listeners, for joining us for another edition of our weekday radio show, Elko Live Today, featuring community news and local issues. Find out more online at gbcnv.edu. You can always visit on campus, but it's also great to give them a call at Great Basin College. And remember, continuing education courses are online at campusce.net/GBCNV. Thanks again for joining us for today's program.